Mataji, can I make you co-host, or can I make you host?
Yes,
then you
Mataji.
can end the class at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
I like that Prabhupada behind you.
Mayapur. Prabhupada.
Beautiful.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha
Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Mata is cutting Mataji. Mataji, is cutting in between, Mataji. Your voice is cutting.
You can hear me now?
Little bit. Say it again.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajaka
Very good.
Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Bhumi Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. यमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, सामवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories
Hare
to
Krishna.
assembled devotees.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to assembled devotees.
Krishna.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, The Birth of Emperor Parikshit. Text 7. Maturgarbhagato viraha satada bhrigunandana dadarsha purusham kanchid dahyamano stratejasa. Maturgarbhagato viraha satada bhrigunandana dadarsha purusham kanchid dahyamano stratejasa. Maturgarbhagato viraha satada bhrigunandana Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid Dahyamano Tejasa. Please chant.
Hare Krishna. Maturgarbhagato viraha satada bhragunandana dadarsha purusham kanchit hiyamano stratejasa.
Hare Krishna. Matur Garpagato Viraha Satada Bhugunandana Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid Yamano Stratejasa. Hare Krishna.
Maturgarbhagato Vira Satata Bhrugunandana Dadarsha Purusham Kanchit Dahyamano Stratejasa.
Hare Krishna. Matur Garbhagato Vira Satada Brigunandana Dadasha Purusham Kanchit Dahi Mano Shrita Tejasaha. Hare Krishna.
Garbhagato Vira Satada Praghunandana Dadarsa Purusam Kanchid Dhyamano Stratejasa.
Hare Krishna. Matur Garbhagato Viraha Satada Brigunandana Tadarsha Purusham Kanchid Daya Mano Astratejasa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Matur Garbhagato Virha Satada Brigunandana Dadarsa Purusham Kanchit Dayamano Astra Tejasa. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Maturgarbhagato Virha Satada Brigunandana Dadarsha Purusham Kanchit Dayamano Stratejasa.
Okay, so we'll do word-to-word translation. Matuhu, mother. Garbha, womb. Gataha, being situated there. Viraha, the great fighter. Saha, child Parikshit. Tada, at that time. Bhrigunandana, O son of Bhrigu. Dadarsha, could see. Purusham, the Supreme Lord. Kanchit, as someone else. Dahyamanaha, suffering from being burned. Astra, the Brahmastra. Tejasa, temperature. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O son of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwathama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Translation once again. O son of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwathama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Purport. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semen. And thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies, according to one's past actions. When he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes, fortunately, prays to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parikshit, while in the womb of his mother, was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy. And the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. And for this reason, the word viraha has been used. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matur Garbha Gato Viraha Satada Bhrigunandana Dadarsha Purusham Kanchid Dahya Manostra Tejasa. O son of Bhrigu, when the child Parikshit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his Uttara and was suffering from the burning heat of the Brahmastra thrown by Ashwatthama, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. So, what's the context here? Until yesterday, we were reading about Yudhishthir Maharaja's opulence, how even the demigods were talking about the opulence of Yudhishthir Maharaj. We were reading about Yudhishthir Maharaj. And now we are all of a sudden talking about Parikshit Maharaj in the womb of Uttara. So what's the connection? So at the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, in the first chapter, we read that the sages had asked 6 questions. The Shaunakadi rishis had asked six questions of Suta Goswami. So they said, what is the ultimate, what is the dharma for all human beings by which they can get the ultimate benefit? Another question is, what is the essence of all the scriptures? Please tell us in an easily understandable way. What is the essence of all scriptures? The other question was, why did Krishna appear in this world as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? What did he try to achieve? What was the purpose? Why did he come as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? And then they asked another question. we want to hear about the transcendental activities of Krishna and his expansions. Then they said, we also want to hear the Avatara Katha, the pastimes of his avatars, the Purusha avatars, the Leela avatars. And finally, after Krishna disappeared from this world, where did Dharma take shelter? Because Krishna is the father of Dharma. So Krishna says that yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam tadatmanam na glanir bhavati bharata. How does it go? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata
Abhyudhanam adharmasya.
Adharmasya. Thank you. Abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. So whenever there is an increase of adharma, I myself come to re-establish the religious principles, Krishna said. So Krishna is the one who is establishing religious principles. So after Krishna went back, then where is dharma now? Where can we find dharma? That was the question. So in answer to these 6 questions, in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Srila Sutta Goswami begins to answer those questions. So the answer to first 2 questions, what is the essence of all scriptures, and also what is the highest dharma for all living entities by which they can become happy, they can become completely satisfied. What is that activity? So the answer to that was rendering devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And also why Krishna appeared as Vasudeva and Devaki. He came in order to perform pastimes for the sake of those people who are in the mode of goodness, so that they can get an idea by seeing and hearing. Because when Krishna performs these pastimes, then they will be repeated, and we can hear of those pastimes. Those people who are in the mode of goodness, they can actually go back to Godhead. So for the sake of the devotees, the Lord is coming, or for the sake of the people who are in the mode of goodness, the Lord is coming and performing his pastimes. And same with the incarnations. Then in the 3rd chapter, we read about the 2nd and 3rd chapters. We read about the Purusha avatars and all the Leela avatars, different types of incarnations. Then finally, where did Dharma take shelter after Krishna left? Dharma took shelter in Srimad-Bhagavatam. Even though Krishna left, he left Srimad-Bhagavatam behind. So now people can take shelter of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Even though Krishna is not there, he's there in the form of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Those were the answers to the first 6 questions. Then in the beginning of the 4th chapter, there were more questions asked by Shaunaka Rishi. He said, this Srimad-Bhagavatam is where everyone should take shelter now. Can you tell us when and where did this Srimad-Bhagavatam appear first? And what was the inspiration, for Vyasdev to give us this Srimad-Bhagavatam? So that was one question. About Srimad-Bhagavatam itself. How did this Srimad-Bhagavatam, what were the circumstances which led to the appearance of Srimad-Bhagavatam? Then another question was, who is so in the first question itself answers about Parikshit Maharaja and Sukadev Goswami. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is the conversation between Parikshit Maharaja and Sukadev Goswami. So then the next question is, we want to know about Parikshit Maharaj, about his birth. So the first question was answered, yes, about how Vyasdev was, in meditation, and then he saw the anomalies of Kali Yuga, and he wanted to do something for the people of Kali Yuga. So then he gave us the Vedanta Sutras, the Puranas, the Vedas, Vedanta Sutras, Puranas, Mahabharata, like that. And still he was not happy. Finally, Narad Muni came, and Narad Muni told him, inspired him to give us the Srimad-Bhagavatam, right? And this Srimad-Bhagavatam, okay. So then how did Srimad-Bhagavatam come? Vyasdev wrote Srimad-Bhagavatam, but when was it spoken for the first time? Then for that we have to study about Parikshit Maharaj. When was the Srimad-Bhagavatam first spoken? So those questions were asked all together. Tell us about Parikshit Maharaj, then also tell us about how Sukadev Goswami was recognized by the citizens. How did Sukadev Goswami come in touch with Parikshit Maharaj? Sukadev Goswami is a renounced person. He's in the forest. Why did he come and meet the king? So these were the questions asked. After the first six questions were answered, the next set of questions were regarding Srimad-Bhagavatam itself, how Srimad-Bhagavatam came, about Parikshit Maharaj, for whom this Srimad-Bhagavatam was spoken, and about the speaker of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami. So the first question is answered, how Vyasdev, gave us Srimad-Bhagavatam. Now the second question is about Parikshit Maharaj. So while speaking about that, so in order to speak about Parikshit Maharaj's appearance, we were reading about the narration had started with the end of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. How Ashwathama, had killed the 5 sleeping sons of the Pandavas, like that. And there we briefly read, right, that Parikshit was in the womb, and Ashwathama had, he had released his Brahmastra to kill the baby in the womb. He had actually released 6 weapons to kill the 5 Pandavas and Parikshit in the womb. He wanted to kill all of them, finish the Kuru dynasty. But Krishna had saved the Pandavas, and also Krishna saved Parikshit. But there, when we were hearing about how Krishna saved Parikshit, we didn't go into much detail, or we didn't hear about what Parikshit was feeling at that time. We heard about how Krishna protected and how Kunti Maharani was feeling so grateful, and Uttara was also saved. Krishna was reciprocating with Uttara, like that. And then, of course, we heard about the prayers of Kunti Maharani in gratitude to Krishna, and Krishna is now about to leave. We also heard Bhishma Dev's prayers to Krishna, and Bhishma Dev's leaving his body. Then how Krishna left Hastinapur and he entered into Dwaraka. But again, that question about Parikshit Maharaj still remains. So now again, the sages are asking, at the beginning of this chapter, we see Shaunaka Rishi asked some questions about Parikshit Maharaj. So he's kind of reminding Suta Goswami, please tell us about Parikshit Maharaj. So the womb of Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit, was spoiled by the dreadful and invincible Brahmastra weapon released by Ashwathama, but Maharaj Parikshit was saved by the Supreme Lord. How was the great Emperor Parikshit, who was a highly intelligent and great devotee, born in that womb? How did his death take place, and what did he achieve after his death? Like this. They were asking questions. So then, in order to explain that, Suta Goswami started with how Yudhishthir Maharaj is ruling his kingdom and everything is so opulent. So what is the significance of telling us about Yudhishthir Maharaj's position? He was such a great devotee. He had the opulence which was admired even by the demigods. But because he was Yudhishthir Maharaj was completely absorbed in Krishna's devotional service, he was unaffected. He was unaffected by all the pleasures or all the opulences, all the fame that he had. It couldn't even touch his consciousness. He was completely absorbed, focused in his meditation as a servant of Krishna. That means he didn't even desire that, he should have an heir and, things like that. He didn't have any desire. He was completely satisfied simply serving Krishna. But because Yudhishthir Maharaj was such a devotee, Krishna saved Parikshit and he is protecting Parikshit. So also here we see, of course, Yudhishthir Maharaj himself is a devotee. Parikshit is also a devotee. So that's what we see here. So yesterday's verse was, O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heaven aspired for it. But because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. So he couldn't ask for anything from the Lord. There was nothing that he aspired materially. He was simply satisfied in serving the Lord. Because he was such a devotee, Krishna takes care, right? Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyaham. When someone is engaged in unalloyed devotional service, then such a person doesn't have to worry about his maintenance. He doesn't have to worry about anything, because Krishna is personally carrying whatever that devotee needs. And Krishna is safeguarding, preserving whatever that devotee already has. Krishna is protecting. And Krishna is personally carrying whatever the devotee needs. So the devotee doesn't have to worry about himself. So here we see Yudhishthir Maharaj didn't pray that he wanted Parikshit. And we also see Parikshit Maharaj is also not praying. Oh, the Brahmastra is coming to me. Krishna, please save me. He was not praying. But Krishna is immediately coming and saving Parikshit Maharaj, not waiting for Parikshit to call Krishna for help. So this is Krishna's Bhakta Vatsalata. Bhakta Vatsalata means his affection for his Bhakta, for his devotee. Just like a mother, if the child is in danger, right? If the child is going to touch fire or something, she doesn't wait for the child to first ask the mother. She'll immediately go to save the child. Why? That's her love for the child. So similarly, Krishna also doesn't wait for the devotee to ask him for help. A devotee is simply absorbed in devotional service to Krishna. Devotee also doesn't ask Krishna. Both ways. Devotee also doesn't ask Krishna for himself. He doesn't ask anything. And Krishna also does not wait for the devotee to ask. He'll immediately go to save the devotee. So from the devotee's side, he is surrendered. Yes. So what is the symptom of a devotee? There are 6 symptoms, right? Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya vivarjanam. So the central point of surrender is to be completely confident that Krishna is my protector. Krishna is my protector. And also, if Krishna protects me, I will survive. If Krishna does not protect me, I have no shelter. I will simply suffer. But he is my only master. He can deal with me in whichever way he likes. This is the mood of a devotee. So this principle is being brought out in this verse, that Krishna is the protector of his devotee. And from the devotee's side, he is completely surrendered to Krishna. So in the first paragraph, first half of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining what is the situation of the conditioned soul in the womb. So this is nicely explained by Srila Prabhupada in the third canto, 31st chapter. So this is Kapil Dev's instructions to Devotee. Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. So there, if we simply read the translations, we will understand So I'll just read the translations. You can follow along. The personality of Godhead. Oh, am I sharing? I'm not sharing. I am sharing. Okay. The personality of Godhead said, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and according to the result of his work, the living entity, the soul, is made to enter into the womb of a woman through the particle of male semen to assume a particular type of body. On the first night, the sperm and ovum mix. And on the fifth night, the mixture ferments into a bubble. On the 10th night, it develops into a form like a plum, so the shape of a plum. And after that, it gradually turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be. So this is for all living entities, all bodies. So whether it is a bird or a reptile or a four-legged animal or a human being, right? Everyone. So gradually it turns into a lump of flesh or an egg, as the case may be. In the course of a month, a head is formed. And at the end of 2 months, the hands, feet, and other limbs take shape. By the end of 3 months, the nails, fingers, toes, body hair, bones, and skin appear, as do the organ of generation and other apertures in the body, namely the eyes, nostrils, ears, mouth, and anus. So all this is happening in the 3rd month. Within 4 months from the date of conception, the 7 essential ingredients of the body, namely chyle, blood, flesh, fat, bone, marrow, and semen, come into existence in 4 months. At the end of 5 months, hunger and thirst make themselves felt. And at the end of 6 months, the fetus, enclosed by the amnion, begins to move on the right side of the abdomen. During this whole time, by the way, the embryo is not conscious. Deriving its nutrition from the food and drink taken by the mother, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine. You see, it's a living being and it's taking food and drink. So obviously there'll be waste also. Stools and everything it's passing out, and it is just there in that amniotic fluid, and the baby is just, floating in that fluid, consisting of all these things. Therefore, it is said, the fetus grows and remains in that abominable residence of stools and urine, which is the breeding place of all kinds of worms. This is very hard for us to even imagine, living in such conditions 24/7. So there are different types of worms that get attracted because of, the stools and urine and all the other things there. So these worms are biting the baby, bitten again and again all over the body by the hungry worms in the abdomen itself. The child suffers terrible agony because of his tenderness. He thus becomes unconscious moment after moment because of the terrible condition. That is why the baby is unconscious there. Because of such terrible conditions, there's no consciousness. Moment after moment, it's becoming unconscious. And apart from this, owing to the mother's eating bitter, pungent foodstuffs, or food which is too salty or too sour, the body of the child incessantly suffers pains which are almost intolerable. So the worms are biting, but also the strong foods that the mother is eating, that is also burning the skin of the baby. Placed within the amnion and covered outside by the intestines, the child remains lying on one side of the abdomen, his head turned towards his belly and his back and neck arched like a bow, right? So you can also imagine it's such a helpless condition. You have this experience when it is very cold at night. Sometimes if you don't have a blanket, then you just, you just become like this, something like that. So it's a very, very difficult condition, and the child is just in that condition, staying. There's nowhere to go. This is the condition of the spirit soul in the womb. The child thus remains like a bird in a cage, without freedom of movement. Srila Prabhupada said, if an adult person is put like this in a bag and tied up, he couldn't live even for a few seconds. What to speak of living like that for months together? So the child thus remains just like a bird in a cage, without freedom of movement at that time, if the child is fortunate. So mind you, not all living entities are not praying. If the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. So he's actually remembering, he's given an opportunity to remember why he is suffering there. So he will remember all his activities in the past 100 lifetimes, and then he repents. Is there any possibility of peace of mind in that condition? What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Thus endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month after his conception, the child is tossed down by the airs. So up until the 7th month, there is no consciousness. Only in the 7th month, the child is becoming conscious. And when it is conscious, it is completely miserable. This is what is happening. And then the child is pushed down, tossed downwards by the airs that press the embryo toward the weeks preceding delivery. Like that. And then in that stage, text 11, the living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord, who has put him in that condition. It is the Lord who put him in that condition. But now the living entity understands, he feels responsible. I am suffering because of my own misdeeds. And the Lord has put me in this condition. So he's appealing to the same Lord. He says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only because he can give me relief from all fear. And from him, I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. So in this way, the spirit soul continues praying to the Supreme Lord. That is the condition of the living entity in the womb. So here, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. So considering that after death, right after death, you get the opportunity to enter into the womb of a mother. It's not necessary that everyone gets, a birth right away. Sometimes you have to go to hell, and after that you get birth in some mother. I mean, you enter the womb of a mother. Or sometimes you're waiting in Pitraloka for your judgment to be called by Yamaraj. But let's consider right after death, if you get you get the opportunity to enter into the womb of a mother, then for 7 months you are unconscious. So therefore Srila Prabhupada is saying death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. Yeah. But this is the case of you can say fortunate living entities, those who are able to actually remember the Lord at that time and pray to the Lord. They are actually fortunate. It's not that all living entities are praying at that time. No, depending on if somebody has some connection with bhakti, then he will pray to the Lord. Otherwise, if somebody is a yogi, he will be performing yoga in that condition, like seeking liberation, like that, but not necessarily praying to the Supreme Lord, taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. But Here we are talking about Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj, he's in the womb of his mother. So apart from all the difficulties that we read just now, that any baby in the womb has to undergo, he was struck by the Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama. Of course, we saw the Lord's Bhaktavatsalata. He didn't wait for Parikshit to pray to the Lord. Immediately the Lord came to protect Parikshit. But we should also understand what is Parikshit Maharaj's mood there. He's called a Veera, a fighter. The child Parikshit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature. So this being a great fighter is not just a Kshatriya, it's also the quality of a devotee. This is the quality of a devotee. A devotee endures all types of opposition, all types of difficulties, but he will never give up his service to Krishna. The enemy will not be able to break a devotee's faith in Krishna. He will continue on in spite of failures after failure after failure after failure. He will not give up his determination to serve Krishna. So we see this quality very, very nicely in Srila Prabhupada's life. How many failures he had to face. But he got that instruction from his spiritual master, which is actually the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Coming through the disciplic succession, he got that personal instruction from his spiritual master to preach Krishna consciousness in the English-speaking language. And Srila Prabhupada gave his life in order to carry out that instruction. In spite of all failures, he never became dejected. He never gave up. That is the mood of a fighter. So here we are seeing Parikshit Maharaj is a fighter. So, I mean, this can be explained and elaborated in so many ways. When we take to Krishna consciousness, it's not that we will not get, it's generally people, they take to religion because material world means it's dukkhalayam, right? It's full of miseries. So we are looking for atyantika dukkha nivriti. Everyone is looking to become free from the suffering. That's natural, right? Because we are all pleasure seeking. So we are trying to become free from the miseries. And material existence means it's miserable. So then they try, conditioned soul tries in his own way to solve his problems. And when he fails in different ways, then he takes shelter of God, right? Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukriti norjana arto. Artha means what? Artha means one who is in distress. He goes to Krishna because he's not able to solve the problems himself, right? Artho. Or Artharthi, who is desiring wealth. But whatever, when he's not able to solve his own problems, then he will approach God. So is that the reason why a devotee is rendering devotional service to Krishna? To solve the problems of life? I don't have wealth. I don't have job. I don't have kids. I don't have a husband. I don't have a wife. Or is that why we are rendering devotional service to Krishna? No, that's not pure devotional service. But generally people think that is religion. People think religion means you worship God so that I will get some gain. I will solve my problems and that situation will continue, right? I will be eternally happy and I won't die. And after coming to Krishna consciousness, if things don't work that way, if there is any difficulty, then what's the use of practicing religion if it's not solving my problems? I can solve them myself. Go away, like that. But that's not the, that's not the purpose of Krishna consciousness. It's not that we will not have difficulties. But at the same time, it is said, Krishna is the protector. So what is it that Krishna is protecting? If we are still getting difficulties in life, if we are still facing reversals in life, in spite of taking to Krishna consciousness, then what is the protection that we are getting from Krishna? Krishna is protecting our Krishna consciousness. And that is the real protection. That is the ultimate protection. The other types of security that we are looking for, they may or may not save us in that situation. But Krishna's protection is perfect. Like in yesterday's class, His Grace Kaivalya Prabhu was saying, any benediction that Krishna gives, that is all good. You don't have any, bad side effects of Krishna's benedictions. Krishna's benedictions are all auspicious, all good. So when Krishna is protecting, he's protecting our Krishna consciousness. And that is the real protection. And the devotee is also surrendered to Krishna. He takes Krishna as his protector. Krishna is my master, I am his servant. And whatever else may come in this life, that is the result of my own past misdeeds. But I will always remain Krishna's servant. He will always remain my master. So we will see this principle again and again in the lives of devotees. You read the life of Prahlad Maharaj, same thing. When Nrsimhadev asked him, ask for a benediction, Prahlad Maharaj said, my relationship with you is not like a businessman, that I do devotional service and then I expect something in return from you, that you will protect me and you will. Of course, Krishna assures that I carry whatever my devotee lacks. That is from his side. But the devotee never expects, oh, Krishna says he carries, why he's not carrying what I'm lacking? Why Krishna is not giving me what I need? Devotee doesn't expect. That's what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. From the devotee side, he says, my relationship with you is, you are my master, I am your servant. Outside this, there's no need of any other discussion. Let us have just, so servant's business is to simply please the master. That's all. There's no expectation in return. That's the relationship. So then this is a, that's a perfect servant. One who does not expect anything from the master is a perfect servant. And for such a servant, Krishna becomes his, like Vamandev, right? He became the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj. He won't leave such a devotee. He'll just be with the devotee all the time. So in this verse, we saw that Parikshit Maharaj, being a great, due to his being a great fighter, he endured the unbearable temperature that was caused by the Brahmastra. So we see the quality in this verse, we see the quality of the Lord as Bhakta Vatsala, and also the quality of the devotee as the one who tolerates all kinds of difficulties, but he continues in Krishna consciousness. So I will stop here. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhuji or Sonia Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Mataji. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Mataji, I'm just trying to understand the pastime of Draupadi and Parikshit Maharaj. Like, as you said, Parikshit Maharaj did not ask for help. Lord came immediately. So can you explain like what was the mood of Draupadi in that case?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you demand from the Lord. So there's a difference between asking and demanding. Of course, when you call out, it's natural that the person who's dearest to you, closest to your heart, when you're in difficulty, it's natural to just call out to that person.
Yes.
It's like when you call out to your mother, right? You must have had this experience. Let's say you are about to meet with, about to be in an accident, or ladies, when they are delivering babies, they just call out the name of the mother, right? They call out it doesn't mean that they're expecting the mother will come there and she'll do something for them, but it just shows how dear is that person to me, that in my most difficult situation I just call out to that person. So when Draupadi was in a completely helpless condition, it was natural for her to simply call out to the one person who was the dearest to her heart, like that. And when somebody calls out to the Lord like that helplessly, Krishna cannot stay there, right? He's there. So, so the point is about remembering Krishna. It's not so much about asking him and then he's going to. The dependence, that's the point. How dependent is the devotee? So when I gave the example of the baby is so dependent on the mother, completely dependent. So the mother also feels that she has to protect, because the baby is not going to take care of itself. It's not capable of taking care of itself. So the mother is there, ready to give protection to the baby. She's looking out for the baby all the time. I hope the baby doesn't get into some, dangerous situation. So like that, when Draupadi was completely dependent on Krishna, before that, she was thinking maybe my husband will save me, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjuna, somebody. Nobody is able to protect. Then she tried to save herself, trying to pull on the sari herself. When she realized nothing is going to work, then she completely became dependent on Krishna. Krishna, mare Krishna rakhe Krishna mare ke. If you want to protect me, you save me. If you don't protect me, I don't have any other shelter. Hey Krishna, hey Govinda, like that. And when she did that, that is the point. That complete dependence on Krishna, when that is there, immediately Krishna is there to protect. So in Parikshit Maharaja's case, Yudhishthir Maharaj, we already read about Yudhishthir Maharaj's case. Let's say even if Parikshit Maharaj was not a devotee, because Yudhishthir Maharaj was such a devotee and Parikshit was going to be the heir to the kingdom, then even before any of the devotee could, because he's already dependent on the Lord, that's why he's not worrying. He's completely dependent on Krishna. Then Krishna immediately came to protect, like that. So the point is not so much about asking, it is about being dependent on Krishna. So in Draupadi's case also, we see her dependence on Krishna at that moment. Before that, she was looking for help from other sources, or maybe she'll be able to help herself. But when she became dependent on Krishna completely, that's when Krishna came.
Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Very well explained.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
This one I heard in Uddhav Gita. Uddhava asked questions to Krishna, asked him, what do you want to? You're always serving me. Then Uddhava says, no, I don't want anything, but he insists. Then he says, I have questions. When Draupadi was doing like that in front of everybody, how come you didn't go and help her? She's a good devotee. And he says, as long as she thinks that I can do, I can call, I can ask, and she asks everybody, that fathers and grandfathers, everybody she asks, but nobody helps. But then when she says, Sarvadharman Parityaja, then he comes. He says, when she said that, then I could go and help her.
Yeah.
Until you ask, I won't come. That is the first question. And another one is when they are doing gambling, how come you didn't help them? You are there, how you didn't help? And there are also Kauravas, that his uncle, he is doing, but you're not going and you didn't help Pandavas. He says, no, the Yudhishthira was saying everything I can do, and he put his brothers, he put his wife under and the gambling, but he didn't ask anything. When they thought that, if they would have called me, then I would have gone help it. So that was really some things in Uddhava questions. So it's very nice, we have to ask him. Sarvadharman, I just leave everything and then you take care of me.
Yeah,
Then-
not exactly asking, but depending on Krishna.
Depending.
Sarva dharman parityaja. Yeah, I'm depending on you, whatever you do, like
Then
that.
he-
Yeah.
As long as I can do, then
Yeah.
he won't.
Yeah.
Then he will leave us in for freedom. Do it yourself.
Yes.
That was really nice things, Uddhava questions. Thank you very much, Mataji. Very nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Actually, I also have to go now, but thank you all so much for your participation in Srimad-Bhagavatam today. We will end the class here.
Thank you.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.